All right, students, how y'all doing? Today's lesson, we're going to start getting into more volume and adding on to that geometry of prisms, okay? We have here today a learning activity I'll do tomorrow, and then please get a calculator, you'll need it. All right, let's get started to it. Look at that cool figure. So we're going to look at some prisms and talk about the volumes of those. Today you should be able to understand and reason about finding the volume of a prism. So it should not be too bad, right? All right, so before we get started, let's do a warm up. So with that warm up, we need to understand that the volume for a prism, well, all the volume is the area of the base. So the base is that flat part times whatever height. So I was to use this prism right here, right? Technically, there's this is just a rough sketch, but there should be that's a really rough sketch, but there should be right here is the base. Okay, so that base is going to have its area, and then you have to multiply by the height of this, which is just going to be up and down, right? This is your height. So again, to get the volume of a prism, it's just going to be the area of that base times the height. All right, so let's get into it. So I need to look at here A, B, and C. I need to see if each prism has the same height. Oh, so I'm saying that each prism has the same height, and then which one will have the greatest volume. And then we also want to see which one has the least volume. So again, volume is basically when the prism starts building up and creates a 3D shape, right? So if all these have the same height, let's say the height is going to be, call it h is equal to 1 unit. I want to say which one has the greatest volume. So understand, if I was to put these on top of each other, right, we're kind of creating that shape. But the idea is, this isn't going to be perfect, but good enough. But the idea is, what is going to have the biggest volume? Okay, meaning that which one is going to be filled up the most? If I was to bring this up, bring this back, ooh, that one's gone. Can't even use it. Let's see. Let's bring this up. There we go. Okay, if I was to put all of these shapes together, my question is, which one will have the most volume? Again, the general idea is volume is what's filled in the shape, in the 3D shape. And we can already see that it looks like C is going to have the most volume. All right, so the greatest volume, that's going to be C. And then the least volume, well, it looks like it's going to be A, right? Again, volume means how much is filled up in the 3D shape, how much space is filled up. And then it looks like C has the most, right? Maybe because it was the longest. And then A would have the least, right? Because it has, looks like 3 squares, whereas B has 4 of them. So let's make this a little bit harder. And by saying, if each prism has the same volume, which one will have the tallest height? So remember, volume is how much space is being filled in. So if I have, for example, let's just look at C, since that's the longest one, right? If I stack all these inside of C, let's say this is the volume set for A and B. All right, let's see, there. This isn't going to work. Maybe if I make some duplicates, that's not going to work either. Nope. You're getting the idea though, right? The idea is create some shapes. All right. So rough thing, right? Let's say that one is the volume, and now that A and B also have the same volume as C. So C is laid all out, right? All those cubes. So now the question comes, which one's going to have the tallest height? Assuming that these are just one, the height of this is just 1. So the height is just 1, h equals 1. I can see that C probably has the smallest height, right? The shortest height is definitely going to be C, because if you look at it on the side, you'll see that it's only stacked up 1. Now, if we take all those blocks and put it into A and B, right, I'm going to take all these blocks and then add it on to that. Okay, well, it looks like for B, Imagine that as being 4 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's safe to say maybe for B on the side, it's going to have about three blocks stacked up for its height, right? So for B, the height is going to be 3. Now if I do A, let's see, A requires 3 blocks. So maybe I do 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, it looks like A is going to look like this on the side, right? Where you have 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So this one's going to be A right here, and then this one's going to be B. So it looks like A will have the tallest height, right? The reason why was because we took C. So why we took C and used that to stack. All right. So now let's look at one last question. So if each prism has the same volume and the prism associated with base B has a height of 6 units. So again, we have B, and that has some kind of height. So it's going stacked up 6 units. What is the height associated of the prism associated with base C? All right, well, if this is B, what I'm building right here, all right, move this up a little bit. There's 6 units, right? Let's see, there, and then there. All right, if each prism has the same volume, the prism associated with B has the height of C. So what's going on is I have 6 stacks of that B right now, right? I'm having 6 stacks of B, and I was to move it to C. So there's 1, 2, 3. That's the first layer, and then you put a second layer, right? So 1, 2, 3 more. That's a total of 6 of those B's, right? That we move for C. And it looks like we'll have a stack of 2. So the height of C is 2 units. All right. Man, that was kind of rough, right? But that's okay. Again, we're trying to create boxes. It's really hard to visualize because we're not actually together, right? But this is the best way to do it. Oof, my throat. Okay. So activity 2, this one, I need you to go to this link, all right? This link should pop up with this figure thing right over here, right? There should be finding volume with cubes. We're going to use this activity to take these cubes, right? We're going to take these cubes and then we're going to use that to move those around. But I want you to go to that link and get ready for this next activity. Okay, so next activity is I got to figure out, how do I know the figure you built is a prism? That's the first thing. I need to know if this, let's say it's a template right here, this L shape is a prism. Well, to know that, remember a prism has a base and it has some kind of height. So it's going to be a 3D object with a base and a height, right? I can say that my base could be that L shape. All right, that L shape could be my base. But I need to figure out the area of that base. Okay, so how do I know build a figure is a prism? Well, I need a base and I need a height. Okay, well, let's try to find the area of what that base could be. Well, whoops. The best way to do that would be using this activity. I'm going to use this now as a template, right? So go ahead on your time as well. Whoops, looks like I can move it around 3D shape wise. All right. This isn't working. When I was playing with this, it was so much easier. Move. Okay. There we go. So I can take these shapes and I can move them on there. And again, I'm basically just filling all this up. You fill all this up and you should get something like this, right? You fill all those up. Oh, did it just freeze on me? Technology, friends. So let's see, I take all of these. I'm going to start filling it up. And now I need to figure out what the base is going to be, right? That base is going to be that whole, think of it as the whole L shape getting filled up, all right? So if that whole L shape is getting filled up, how many units do we have in that base? All right, so here I'm doing it slowly. You can do this as well, play around with this tool, all right? But you can already see that, well, this is already, right, a 3 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a 3 by 6 right there. And then I have here, it looks like will probably be a 3 by 3. And again, the idea is to fill this space up so that we can count what that base area is going to be of the prism. All right, so there's my base. If I was to take that, right, what's going on? The area, well, I said here is a 3 times 6, and this was a 3 times 3. Okay, so the area, that's 9, 18. So I add those together, 18 plus 9. The area of the base should be 27 units squared. All right. So now is I need to calculate the total number of cubes to make the prism. That's weird. How do you calculate the total number of cubes to make the prism? Well, same thing. I just counted those, right? Basically, the surface of each cube that we just made was the area, and that represents how many cubes you have as well. So I saw that I also have 27 cubes that I use, right? Question is, how do I get the volume? So remember, volume is your base times your height. Well, I need to know what my base is. So my base was 27 times my height. And it looks like my height's right there given. That's 2. So again, the volume is 27 times 2. That's going to give you 54 units cubed. All right. So that will be the volume of this figure that we just made, right? The volume, the stuff that's being filled in, that's how much is going to be filled in, is 54 units cubed. All right. Next question. So the question goes, if you find the area of the base, how do you use that to find the volume of the prism? So I find the area of the base, how can I use that to find the volume of the prism? Well, if I know the base, I need to know what the height is, right? Usually the height is not necessarily, it needs to be given, I believe, unless there's some other situations going on, right? If I was just saying, here's some cubes, we can assume that those are 1 units, right? So we can just say, oh, that height is 1 unit. But like before, I said, well, the height was 2. So then we're able to use that equation of base times height, right? Same thing goes with this. So now if my height is 5, remember, what did we say our base was? Our base was equal to 27, right? You just count 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, right? So that's 27, and then our height now is 5. So then my answer is going to be 27 times 5. Please use a calculator on this. That should give you 135. So my height now is 5 units. I should have 135 units cubed. How about 8.5? Well, our base is still 27 times by 8.5 times 8.5. That gives me 229.5 units cubed. All right. All right. We are almost done. So now, just to sum it up, right, to calculate the total number of cubes to make a prism, the same thing as calculating the volume of prism, all right? You count how many cubes you have, just like that Rubik's Cube, that represents the volume, all right? So we can find the area of the base of the prism and multiply by the number of layers, or the height of the prism. So in this case, I have here a Rubik's Cube. Well, I have here the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's your base, so base 9. Then our height looks like it's 3. Let's say units. I can use that base times height and find the volume of that Rubik's Cube, right? And then the area is units squared, so that's really 9 units squared. And so we'll say that our height is units, area is units squared, and volume is units cubed, right? The reason why I say cube is because it's to the third or 3D dimension, which is like a 3D cube. All right. So we got one more activity. This I'll let you do on your own very loosely. Basically, I need you to click on the second activity. All right, you click on the second activity. It should look something like this as long as it's loading. It's taking forever to load. But while that is loading, let me hit, there it is. All right, I gotta choose each figure. This is through A through F, represents these right here, right? Represents these right here, A through F. I need to ask myself, is it a prism? What's the area? What's the height? And then what's the volume? For example, if I was to look at this, well, this represents the base, is 25. So the base is 25. My height, well, this is a cube, it's a square, so I know that if it's 25, well, 5 times 5 gives you 25 area, right? So I know that this height has to be 5. And remember, when I'm finding the volume, I times that through. 25 times 5, that should give you 125 is your volume, right? And is it a prism? Yes, because it has these two, right? If it has a base and a height, area of the base and the height, therefore it's a prism. All right. And again, you can slide this over and do B. Oh, it looks like this is a little bit higher, right? And you'll be able to check. Okay. So go ahead and pause this video. Try doing each one of those. Maybe get a separate piece of paper out. I'll give you the answers in a sec. All right. So again, pause, do these questions, use the activity, and try to get the answers with it. Pause. No. Yes. Okay. Here's your answers. So A is yes, B is yes, C is no, D is yes, E is no, F is yes. You need to find those values, right? Remember, volume is equal to your area of base times your height. All right, let's wrap it up. So 2 things, what information do we need to calculate the volume of a prism? We need the area of the base and height of a prism, right? Times them together. Second thing is explain how you could use layers to find the volume of a prism. Well, you find the area of the base and you multiply the height or how much it stacks up. Next part, 2 prisms have the same base area and height, but different base shapes. Which prism has a greater value? They are technically the same value. The shape of the base doesn't matter in prism, only the base area matters. All right. This one, we have 2 clay prisms, use the same amount of clay to make them. So we have clay, right? Going to put some things together. The first one has a larger height than the second, which has a larger base area. And that's going to be the second one. That's going to the warm-up, right? A shorter height means a larger base area. So what you learned today is to explain why the volume of a prism can be found by multiplying the area of a base and the height of a prism. And again, tomorrow there'll be a learning activity. But today, just take it easy. Tell me what you learned. Again, pause this video if you get stuck on things. This is kind of getting hard, isn't it? But other than that, have a great day.